Veterans Channel. Here at Burda Reservoir, near Plymouth, England, one man prepares for a journey that will push his body and mind to the limits of human endurance. Former Royal Marines Commando and Regimental Sergeant Major Barry Baz Gray served his country for 26 years in the most inhospitable environments like Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Northern Ireland. But today, he prepares for his ultimate journey, a solo, unsupported, and unassisted trek across the continent of Antarctica, a mission he calls Challenge Antarctica.
So I want to go out there and develop all my knowledge, all my skills, all my experience, and put it into that expedition. It's got nothing to do with copying or repeating or racing or being the first. It's just about what can I do, what can I achieve, and how can I then inspire other people.
Retired Royal Marines Corps RSM Mark Wicks joins Baz on his training session to discuss the motivations and inspirations behind this monumental challenge.
Every year I did something daft, something extreme, and I sort of got a bit of a name for it and became known for it, and then people go, oh, it's Baz, he's on another one of his challenges, what's he doing now? I'll get behind that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's doing what? That's bonkers. But they get behind it because they're used to it. And it's led to me ending up on a huge expedition down to the Antarctic regions, following in the footsteps of someone who massively inspires me, who's a huge inspiration in my life, Ernest Shackleton.
So, Challenge Antarctica, Baz, your expedition. Tell us about it. You know, where are you at the moment with it, and when are you going, and what are you going to achieve? And I know the history behind this and what you're trying to achieve, in that the likes of Shackleton, the likes of Scott, the likes of Raoul Amundsen and people like that, but not one of these men or any previous expedition has ever crossed from sea to sea across Antarctica via the South Pole. And next year, you're hoping to go solo, unsupported, across, right across Antarctica.
That's correct.
Give us the story, mate.
Yeah, so I mean, it has been done, but it's been done in teams, it's been done with assistance, it's been done with support. Mm-hmm. The difference is the coast-to-coast journey via the pole hasn't been done as an individual, unsupported and unassisted, so without the use of kites or wind assistance or anything like that. So that's the journey that I want to embark on and try and undertake. And it started with my role on HMS Endurance, really. So the love and the passion for the extreme outdoors and the cold and the mountainous, mm-hmm. I got through the Mountain Leader branch in the Royal Marines, becoming the guy that ended up running the training courses, not just being a member of that branch, and then becoming the chief instructor, responsible for the tri-service teaching and training. Mm-hmm. And I love that responsibility, but that threw me into that environment as a man responsible for the safety and welfare of thousands of people, if you like, through my series of instructors and things like that. And it's a huge amount of responsibility that makes you and forces you to learn very quickly everything about you in that environment, but how to look after other people in that environment too. And we specialise in desert, we specialise in jungle, we can go all over the place, and I love all of that too. But for me, it was obvious, it was mountains, it was cold, that's what I loved. Mm-hmm. I really thrived in that environment. So every opportunity to go on trips and to get into that environment, I would jump at.
I think there's an additional piece to this, buddy, and that is that even though we're talking about the Challenge Antarctica, I don't think people appreciate that you're actually going to go to the South Pole and back as a training sort of piece for yourself, so you can experiment with the equipment, you can look at your own physical ability, you can look at.
So you're absolutely right. The original plan was to go and do it this season, to try and attempt the whole crossing this year. But I think for good reason. There's probably a lack of confidence in me doing that from the logistics companies that support you down there.
Yep.
Because They haven't seen me on paper do what I do, which you know very well. And I think it's also good for the corporates and the sponsors and the marketing teams that want to get behind supporting the reasons I do these things, if they've got something to build on and build from. So I decided to go for the big crossing 2019 into early 2020. And this year, give people something to, to grab onto. So I'm going to do a journey from Hercules Inlet to the South Pole, a 715-mile journey. Only been done inside a month by 2 people in history, solo and unsupported. The second guy, Richard Parkes, was a professional rugby player. Great guy, done some great things since he left. He got an injury which ended his career, and he took to endurance expeditions. You can see him doing various TV documentaries and things now. He did a great documentary about building up to his attempt to break the 24-day record. And he got some really bad weather when he was doing this, which pinned him to the deck for a good few days. And he ended up rolling into the pole in 29 days, which is incredible, still incredible. So I'm not saying I'm going to do it that quick. I'm not saying I'm going for a record. I'm certainly not. It's a shakeout and it's a reconnaissance, and it's about testing all my kit, all my gear, all my equipment, and giving myself confidence, as well as everyone else who's involved in the project, confidence that I am in the league of someone who could potentially do the crossing. Now, if everything goes right, if the weather's good, if the ice conditions, the sastrugi underfoot is good, and things are going well, then I'd love to be the third man to go inside a month, and that's all I'll say. If I get the British record and beat Richard Parkes, then hey ho. I'm sure me and him can have a cup of coffee and meet up and have a chat about it. Getting towards 24 days, the Norwegian guy who holds the actual record for this journey, absolutely incredible, absolutely phenomenal. Everything has to go completely to plan. You've literally got to be able to move every day. He did an incredible 50-miler on the last day into the pole. That might be a little bit outside of my reach. I mean, I'm not that kind of athlete, but if everything goes well and it's on, then maybe. But it's very unlikely. But I'd just be happy to sit inside a month.
Baz, you mentioned very briefly a little bit about the education piece. How involved in that are you, and what are you actually doing on the education?
Well, I think, and I see Antarctica as a scientific laboratory, that's one of the most important places on our planet left today that will allow us and helps us understand the future. To understand what's happening to the globe, we have to understand not only what's happening to it now, but what happened to it in its past. The past tells such a big story about what's going to happen in the future. The Antarctic Peninsula in particular is one of the first places on the planet that starts to show signs of change that will affect the rest of the globe. And I just think it's really powerful. And the more I learn about it, the more I understand about it by working in these environments, the more passionate about it I become. Now, never politically, over over-opinionated, just someone who understands from a basic concept that bad stuff's happening to the planet, and I think we should do a little bit more to try and understand what's happening, and then try to use my journeys to help children understand it in a fun way and in an enjoyable way. So I got approached well before this project by a company or a charity called Speakers for Schools, about 10 years ago now. So talking to kids in schools I've been doing for a long time through my career. So when I set up this project, I thought, I'd like to do more with kids, more with schools, more in education. I couldn't be a teacher. No. I have a huge amount of respect for those guys doing that 9 to 5 every day. It's not an environment I could be in, but it's one I certainly like popping into and popping out of in order to help inspire. And the teachers love it too, from what I've seen. So I use my expeditions to do this inspiration through Expeditions and Adventure and talk to kids about all stuff. Polar history, climate change. I haven't got a degree in it, but I know enough to be able to have a conversation about the issues in a way that children can understand.
Absolutely.
And then want to try and do something.
It's about pitching at their level that they can understand.
In a fun way.
And I think you recognise, they're the future custodians of this planet. Yeah. And the better educated they are on the issues that we face now and what they may face in the future will hopefully embrace them, and some of them will go on to, help change.
Yeah, I agree, and I just think that's the way society's going anyway. So why not just get in amongst it, get involved in it, and do the right thing?
I think that's commendable, mate.
So I want to start a foundation going forward, and people who start foundations are successful people. So I've got to be honest with myself. I can't just sacrifice, not have a living, not pay my bills, and say I'm going to set up a foundation. I've got to create some sort of successful story and business and organisation that Challenge Antarctica will become in order to create that future that I want to do. And it's not about having a website and being all over the news and saying this, that and the other, which is one of the reasons I've not called it a charity. I think there's enough charities out there.
Sure.
It's about me doing what I can in an environment that I'm passionate about, taking children away to places like Norway, disadvantaged kids, getting them out of their comfort zone, out of their school, out of their home. You do counselling in a school, you're still in a school when you're finished. You're still there, you're still surrounded by it all. Stick him on a plane, throw him up a mountain in Norway, chuck him in a snow hole, and he becomes a different child.
Absolutely.
And then your ability to get inside that child's head differs completely, because of what you're doing and where he is. And that costs nothing really, a flight to Norway. And some real clever people around them giving them a great time. And I'm doing quite a bit of that now through the Batten charity. We've got 6 Danish kids who they do it very well in Denmark coming over. We've got them pen paling with 6 Forces kids from England already now. And they're coming over in Easter. I'm going to do a whole load of fun stuff with them, where they're just going to take them away and they're just going to...
Just elaborate very briefly on the Batten.
Yeah, so the Batten's another area there where I do a lot of work. I've been a trustee at the Batten for about 8 years now, and the Batten is simply a message and a tool that we use to inform society about the issues Forces people have. It's a stretcher handle. We have 4 of them. And the stretcher handle is not just one we've got off any old stretcher. It's a MERT, an emergency rescue stretcher handle that came from Afghanistan via 40 Commando. So we know that this stretcher has been used live in Afghanistan in a conflict. And we've taken this symbol, this stretcher, which is neutral. It has a real powerful meaning and a really powerful role to play in conflict. So we've broken the 4 handles off this stretcher. And we now use them as battens, as handles, as a tool to help spread a message of support to society. We've been doing it for 10 years. I've been involved for 8 years. It's an incredible thing that won't go anywhere because it costs nothing. Every single person we use is about building communities, pulling community into support. Everyone is a volunteer. We don't even take expenses for travel. We don't take wages. Nothing is spent. Every penny that comes in with this charity, and I think it's quite unique, goes straight to helping and supporting families and people that need it. College courses, education, getting people back into work. We've got people who are amazing at dealing with counsellors that get people into housing and off the streets. I think with what we produce financially and what we do raise, what we do with that, I don't know anyone who can match it. And the founder of that, Alan Rowe, is just such an incredible civilian who put this together and started this idea that, he is already an MBE for his hospice care work from years and years back. Just wanted, it was a rant initially, just wanted to get it off his chest. He just wasn't happy with the support we weren't getting in his eyes. So he started the charity and then was encouraged to just keep it going because it was amazing. We now have battens in Australia, America and Denmark, and it's growing every month.
Exponentially.
Because it costs nothing to grow. And it's about, if you support the Forces and you're intrigued and interested in what it is they do and what happens behind the scenes, then the Batten is a place where you can find out so much more and understanding and getting involved for nothing. It costs nothing. It's just because you want to and you're a good member of the community. And for that reason, it's going from strength to strength.
Well, Baz, all I'm going to say now is that, it's a compelling story. It's inspirational what you're doing. And I know every one of us that knows you, but not just your family, friends and colleagues, around the world will be intrigued by what you're about to embark on and what you're going to hope to achieve. And I just want to wish you, from all of us at the Veterans Channel, absolute great success. And we'll be following you. And would love to talk when you return. And we'll do a follow-up.
I'll be here whenever. And
absolutely.
A lot of this, Mark, you might not realise, might be down to you anyway, because I was stood in a car park in Portsmouth one day, bumped into you and had a chat. And I was talking to you about, am I ready to be an RSM? I don't know if you remember. Should I be an RSM and stuff like that? And you just went, Baz, you make your own luck. And I've been making my own luck ever since and going for it where I know I should be going for it and not holding back. And a few little words from an inspirational guy, as you were to me back then, can create huge changes in people's lives.
Sure.
And I want to be the guy who does for other people what you, as men, as well as others, have done for me.
Veterans Channel.